feel worthy.
From the Sunshine State, this is Tampa Bay's 10 Talk.
It's time for FLA Law, brought to you by the personal injury attorneys of Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. This hour will be informative, along with taking your questions and comments. Now, here are your hosts for today's show.
That's right. Thank you for tuning in once again. This is FLA Law live on the radio. As you know, we are here every Tuesday at 5 o'clock with your live legal call-in talk show. So thanks for joining us tonight. We have a great show coming up with a family law attorney who's going to be answering all your questions about divorce, child support, custody, alimony, and those sorts of questions. So it should be a very entertaining and informative show. So while you're tuning in, if you know anyone who has family law issues, concerns, topic that they need to discuss and would like to get some insight from an experienced family law attorney, then tonight's the night to have them call in, tell them to turn on the radio. Of course, we are live right here at WTAN in the studio at AM 1340 and 106.1 FM. But of course, if they're outside of the bandwidth and they want to be able to listen, you can always direct them to our streaming platforms, which I am going to give you right now. So that way, you know how to continue listening. If you get out of the car, you're not able to continue listening to the radio. We are streaming live right now on Facebook and YouTube. So if you search Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes injury lawyers, you put that into the search bar on either Facebook or YouTube, you'll see right now we are streaming live in the studio at WTAN. You'll see myself and my guests will be joining us here shortly. And if you see that circle, click on it. You can continue to watch until the 1 hour is over. We'll be streaming live the entire time. You can leave comments in the comment sections of Facebook or YouTube, and we'll read those out over the air. So if you have a question or you just want to join in on tonight's discussion, then feel free to leave your comments or questions in the section at the bottom of the chat on Facebook or YouTube. Now, with that being said, we do also have a podcast. So if you're not able to continue to listen tonight, but you want to catch up later, or maybe there was a show last week or the week before that you didn't get to hear, but you want to hear it later, that's okay. Because guess what? We are on all podcast platforms such as iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify. So you can certainly look us up there as well for our podcast, and that's entitled FLA Law on the Radio. If you look up FLA, LAW on the radio, you should be able to find our podcast. Make sure you follow us and subscribe. That way you'll get the alert anytime a new podcast is uploaded. You should be able to find us on there. And you'll obviously get notified every time there's a new episode. So that's something that I would recommend. Tell your friends and family, especially those that are into law or legal podcasts. Sometimes there's criminal law discussions, family law discussions, a lot of personal injury discussions, as you know, because we are the personal injury attorneys at Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. So you'll get a lot of information when it comes to negligence, car accidents, slip and fall cases, wrongful death. Anything in that realm of personal injury, there's going to be a lot of content, a lot of podcasts and things about that. So if that's your jam and you think that someone you know would enjoy that, please share it with them. Let them know that we are on all the podcast platforms. And so tonight, we're definitely going to be diving into family law. We do have a great guest who's going to be joining us tonight. She actually was a guest of ours, I would say, over a year now. It's probably been about a year and a half since we've had her on the show. So I'm really excited to have her come back and join us. She's actually a friend of mine, a colleague from law school. We actually went to Stetson Law together. And that's where we first met. And I've kind of kept in touch with her over the years. And she's been doing great work in the family law sector. She now owns her own law firm called the Golden Key Law Group. And as the owner and founder, as you can imagine, running a business and practicing law can get quite busy. And so she was juggling a client phone call right before the radio show started. So of course, you got to get that done before you can get on the air. But she was working hard and she's on her way over. So that is actually a testament to the kind of counsel that she is. She's someone that is obviously has a very long resume. I would probably take up the full hour if I spent time going over everything that she's done and is getting ready to do, because she is actually going to be serving as the latest and newest president of the Clearwater Bar Association. So that is actually pretty amazing. I think you were the first Black female to be president of the Clearwater Bar Association, and probably the youngest too. If they actually if they actually took the time to check, you're probably the youngest president of the Bar Association over there. So she's breaking records and doing all kinds of wonderful things. But tonight, obviously, we're mostly talking to her about her practice area in family law. So, of course, if you have questions, the lines are open. But, of course, comments and discussions on the topic are always welcome. You can do that in our Facebook or our YouTube. The phone number is 441-3000, area code 727. Again, that's 727-441-3000. Of course, we'd love to hear from you tonight, but we'll continue on and get into it. I started to introduce you a little bit, but I, of course, want you to tell us a little bit about yourself and remind our listeners. I think it's been over a year now, the last time you were with us, but I've already let them know. Owner and founder of Golden Key Law Group. The main practice I know is family law, but you guys do a lot over there. So let's tell us, how long have you been in business? Obviously, you started your own firm quite some time ago. And what all do you do, and kind of what you're focusing on now these days?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, owner of Golden Key Law Group. We've been in business for November would make 10 years.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. It's so
a full decade. That's crazy.
Right? Like time just really flies. And so our primary focus is family law.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly, we handle a lot of complex litigation cases. But we also handle Social Security, wills, and a little bit of criminal law. I
saw
three
that. I was
attorneys.
surprised on your website. I was like, I didn't even know she was doing criminal defense. So
yes.
That's good. You're expanding.
Yes. So Rita Bryant, she practiced up in Alabama, and she used to handle like a lot of federal criminal cases.
Okay.
And so now she's handling some here.
Nice.
Then Shannon and Rita handles wills.
Right,
and then I do a little bit of real estate. I try to stick to transactional.
I was going to ask that because I know you were doing that at one point. So
yes, I try to just do, real estate as it relates to contractual issues, because family law has me in the courtroom very often.
You're a busy girl. Busy attorney. I don't even know how you wear as many hats as you have. You're also mom. But what was it about family law that made you really, because obviously you're incredibly smart and talented, and you have other practice areas at your firm. So what is it that really made you want to hone in on family law?
So to be quite honest, when we opened our firm, before opening Golden Key, I owned a firm with a partner. And
I remember.
And at that time, we took our practice areas were whatever walked through the door for a little bit. And
I got you.
And it was mostly family and criminal.
Okay.
And so with that, I did not enjoy practicing criminal law. And so we made a decision that I would handle the bulk of family law. And what I liked about family law is that there are opportunities for growth, rehabilitation as it relates to clients and parenting and, and their children. And so criminal law is a lot different, where there's a lot of finality in it. And I like the rehabilitation aspect of family law.
Yeah. And that's funny that you mentioned that you kind of started out and you decided you didn't want to do criminal, because I had a similar experience, but it was during law school. I hadn't really decided what I wanted to do. And so I did like a clinic at the PD's office, which for people that don't know, that's the public defender's office, and doing criminal defense type work. So I was doing research and things like that. Watched a lot of trials and helped with a lot of things and realized, no, this is not what I wanted to do. Yeah. But similarly, I did a clinic at, I think it was called Gulf Coast Legal Services. I'm not even sure if they're still around, but they had a family law department, and I was helping a lot with, injunctions for protection and, divorce forms. I said I didn't want to do that either. So it's funny that you mentioned it, because I was like, no, I kind of eliminated both family law and criminal defense. But look, people love it. And I know that there's a lot of attorneys that, that's just, they couldn't see themselves doing anything else. And so you're obviously a young business owner in addition to being, a family law attorney. And so what are the things that you feel in terms of the balance between business and owning a business and then actually practicing law and serving your clients? Like, how do you make that balance and determining what's important?
It is a dance.
Yeah.
I can tell you there's not, like a 50-50 type of balance. It ebbs and flows, and basically being intentional and paying attention to where your time is needed. And certain things have to take precedent. And, it's coming to the realization, because as attorneys, we're, I don't want to say raised, but almost groomed a certain way to, put the clients first, ethical duties first. And when you're a business owner, unfortunately, sometimes there can be a conflict with that, because
it's a delicate balance.
It is, because legal aid is there for a purpose, right? And so it's hard being a business owner first at times and realizing that you're in the business of law. But I can tell you, having my son made me, come to the realization that, yes, I need to be more intentional about how time is spent. Are we using our systems and the software that's available to the best extent, specifically AI?
Yeah. AI is huge right now. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It is the
it can make your life a lot easier if you use it properly.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Now, the funny thing about that, I know it's not really what we were talking about, but I've talked about it with other attorneys. Are you seeing more now clients that are coming to you with things they found on AI, and like they have their AI lawyer, but they've hired you as their lawyer, and it's like, all right, well, what are we doing here?
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's been a thing, the Google, like I Googled this, I Googled that, and now it's probably I chat GPT this.
Yes.
And so, yes, we're seeing more and more of that. And, my firm, we focus a lot on client satisfaction and making sure that our clients are involved to the extent that they'd like to be. And so I review what they send over, but just knowing that, artificial intelligence can't make up for what happens in the courtroom and happens, from attorney to attorney, that negotiation and just share experience on how the judges rule on these types of issues.
Although they are trying. I saw a video the other day where a pro se litigant tried to appear via like an AI avatar, and the judge was like, what are you doing? Oh my gosh. She was livid. Like, why would you do that? So people are definitely trying to have AI counsel. And, it's a very interesting thing to see, because I think it's an incredible tool. I love it. I have it through Lexis, as well as a research tool for attorneys. And it has really streamlined my research process, which I think is great for clients. The more time I have to focus on my client cases, the better. But then I also see the other side of it, and it's like, oh my gosh, where are we headed with this? But anyway,
no, they say that we're going to turn into the attorneys are going to turn into social workers pretty soon. AI is going to do all the work,
taking over the world. But until that happens, we obviously have the wonderful Charis Campbell here, who is still here to help you with your family law needs. And so I know we've talked about what kind of made you get into family law, but how do people really know in their particular situation when it's time to call a family law attorney?
So I think that there are certain triggers, as it relates to, I would say, like, when you're dealing with paternity issues, which are like unmarried persons dealing with children, it can be when a parent is withholding, or if you feel as if your decisions aren't being taken into consideration. Basically, when there's a breakdown. And what I tell people too, actually, don't wait until there's a breakdown. If you're getting along,
that's good advice.
Let's memorialize this now, because it doesn't have to be an adversarial process. People think that these things have to be, what they see on social media and reality TV. It does not have to be that way. We can come to the table and talk through some of these tough issues. I mean, our parenting plans are almost 15 pages. So it could be like, okay, how do we want to handle out of country travel, passports? How do we want to handle school designation? How do we want to handle third party care? I mean, it's almost better if you're getting along. Let's get this memorialized on paper, because things change. People move on with significant others. And there are things that can make the co-parenting relationship more complex.
Right.
And so I think that there's, always the right time to narrow down a parenting plan and get on the same page to avoid those issues. And then as it relates to divorce, when people, the hardest divorce cases are when people are unsure that they want to pursue divorce. So I
back and forth with it. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I've had cases where clients have changed their mind at least 4 or 5 times, and we're putting the divorce in abatement or putting it on hold.
Look, do you still get paid when that happens?
Well, that's the thing, right?
Because in my field, we work on a contingency fee. So it's like, if that happens with me, I may not get any money. So.
Well, and the problem is too that most of their retainers being unfortunately with the back and forth, because we will prepare the documents and they want to go a different route. So we prepare those documents. And so what I encourage people to do is pursue all of those routes of, like I said, I'm a big proponent of, a big supporter of rehabilitation, of like therapy, of
what do you mean by rehabilitation? Could you explain
that?
So
can we fix this? Can we change this?
What does that look like? Is it like marital counseling?
So marital counseling, putting everything on the table. I mean, a lot of the issues tend to come down to money.
Yeah.
Right.
I could have guessed that one.
Right. So do we need to get a divorce, or do we need to maybe talk about a postnuptial agreement on how we want to?
Yeah.
Right. Do we need to budget? Do we need to? So those type of things. I mean, there's so many other resources that can be explored other than filing. And so when someone but then like when you get to a case where like I'll have spouses come in and they're like, oh, he's moving money around. He's no longer using the joint bank account. That's when I tell them, look, it's coming.
Yeah.
So either you file first or he files first, but it's going to happen.
The writing is kind of on the wall at that point. Yeah, I see what you mean. So then what kind of advice would you give someone who has unexpectedly, seemingly out of the blue, just been served with divorce papers? What would you kind of recommend at that point?
So at that point, I would recommend that that someone immediately consults with an attorney. Of course, we like to promote ourselves and say, you need to hire an attorney, you need to hire an attorney.
Yes.
But, in some cases,
would you say, because I hear people like, okay, well, before you hire an attorney, check the money, like look at your bank account. Where's the money? Did it disappear? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, well, and so here's the thing. We have like a 2-year look. We have a 2-year look back anyway when it comes to dissipation. So I actually just had a financial advisor contact me about that, that, they actually, in this case, want to move money around. And we told them that, or the client does. We told them, hey, don't do that.
Yeah.
Because there is a look back period. But what I would advise is at least conduct a consultation with a reputable attorney so that you can review the petition and see what the other side is asking for. Because if, there's children involved and they're asking for equal time sharing and that's what you want, well, you may be agreeing, that you may be able to agree to that. If they're asking to split, the statute says that you split the assets and debts equally. If that's what they're proposing, then okay, you agree with that. Then you may only need an attorney to review whatever agreements are drafted. But if you review that petition with an attorney and there's an issue with the request for relief and they want to take you for, everything that you got, or there's some areas of concern, then you definitely need to hire an attorney. And I would say,
because that could be evident in the immediate papers that they get served with.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes. We have to plead exactly what we want, especially, we plead generally in a sense, but there are times where, like with alimony, right?
You'll know if they're asking for that.
You'll know if they're asking for that. You'll know if they're asking for an unequal distribution, because there's a presumption that, an unequal split, right, in the assets and debts, because there is a presumption that it should be split equally.
I got you.
So it's good to consult with an attorney to at least know and understand what the other spouse is asking for, and to what extent you can refute that. And then, because you do have, they have 20 days to file a response.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned a moment ago about social media and reality TV and how people have this perception of things. And I, even myself, have this perception of how messy family law can get. And I could be wrong. I've never practiced it a day in my life. But I just feel like that it has emotions run high. And so in the scenario that I kind of mentioned, where someone just out of the blue unexpectedly gets served with divorce papers, I think there's always this knee-jerk reaction to want to be emotional and post and vlog. Even nowadays, TikTok, everybody vlogs their every waking moment, even getting dressed. So how does that kind of play in when you see drama with a client or I guess the opposing party, where they're posting things and things that potentially could become evidence? Like, how does that factor in your cases?
Yeah. So we advise our clients to not post about the divorce whatsoever on social media, because it's all discoverable.
Yeah.
You'd never know who is screenshotting, printing, saving, sending, screen recording your stories, even like, things that you think disappear.
Yeah.
GoFundMes. This is a thing that we see all the time too, where people are posting GoFundMes for attorney's fees, requesting attorney's fees and writing all types of things. Yes. And so
my crazy wife is doing this to me and I need money. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. I didn't think about that.
Oh yeah. And it can affect it. And, imagine your child's, friend coming, stumbling across it, or so it's not good. We don't recommend it, and we've used it in court, in litigation. So it's highly discouraged.
That's the same thing we tell our clients on the PI side when we're dealing with injury claims. It's just better not to post it, and it may seem innocent or even irrelevant, but you would be surprised what the carrier's attorneys are looking at and how they're going to dissect it and use it against you. Right. So, when in doubt, leave it out. Don't post it. And I just think it may be harder in your field. Because like I said, people just have those emotions. And once it's on the internet, you could delete it, but it doesn't mean someone didn't capture it,
right?
Already after you've already posted it. So,
and managing those emotions are difficult at times. I mean, like I said, I do encourage my clients to seek therapy.
Yes.
And to, recognize, like, okay, what do you want as an outcome and as a goal?
Yeah.
I don't litigate based off of emotion and getting back at the person. So trying to really talk to them about realistically what the possible outcomes can be that's supported by law, and redirect them.
Right. Before we take a quick commercial break, I did want to ask you about that, because you mentioned sometimes it's better to discuss those things up front. And so does that mean that a divorce does not necessarily need to go through any type of litigation, that it can be simply worked out between the parties and never have to really go into a courtroom?
So paternity cases, yes, it's possible because we can, if we have a assigned parenting plan, child support guidelines, we can file the case and submit it to the judge, and then it becomes the final judgment, assuming all of the requirements are met. When it comes to divorces, a 5-minute hearing to establish jurisdiction is needed. Right. And the other side.
So you may still see the inside of a courtroom. But
but about 5 minutes, 5 questions. Do you want a divorce? Are you filing from, is your residence in Florida?
Right.
And it can be very, streamlined and I don't want to say easy, but not contentious, right?
Well, that's funny that you mentioned that because, and obviously I'm sure you've seen a lot over the years, been in business almost a decade. So have you ever had a situation where you thought it was all good, everything was non-contested, and then you go in for that, what should be a quick hearing, and it just all falls apart?
Oh, yeah. And, funny enough, the few occasions is when we find out that the wife is pregnant and didn't disclose it because of the legalities around that. Yeah. So the husband, because they're married, if a wife is pregnant, even if there's a different biological father, that husband could be presumed as the legal father.
Oh my gosh.
So that can,
they show up to court with a belly.
Yeah.
And like,
we have to actually ask the question at the, the final hearing, are you currently pregnant? Yeah. Just to ensure that, the children are taken care of, whether they're children that are here or expecting.
Right.
And so I've seen that, or, circumstances where people change their minds.
Sure.
And so
they see each other in court and like, we're looking good. No, of course I'm kidding, but obviously, I would imagine all kinds of things can happen. And so
you just never know what to expect.
You have to be prepared and ready to pivot, right?
Yeah. And so that's what makes it difficult, because certain cases you think are going to be uncontested and straightforward can end up being one of the biggest litigated cases. And then one of the ones that you think are going to be, highly complex because of the amount of assets or debts that they have.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised with the right mediator, you can get it resolved.
Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, this has all been very, very good. We're going to take a short break just to do a little commercial. And then we'll be back with attorney Charis Campbell, who is the owner and founder of Golden Key Law Group, family law attorney. And we'll come back with all things family law after this break.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
After a car accident, there are many questions that you need answers to. Who pays for my car repairs? Who pays for the medical bills? What about my lost wages? And more. The personal injury law firm of Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes has been answering these questions for their clients for nearly 70 years. Since 1955, they've been a voice of the injured in the legal system. As one of the longest established law firms in Tampa Bay, Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes is here to answer your questions. Listen to their live call-in radio show on this channel every Tuesday evening from 5 to 6 p.m. or call them at 727-796-8282 or visit them at voiceoftheinjured.com. Offices Clearwater, non-attorney spokesperson.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
And we We are back with FLA Law live on the radio. Thank you for joining us. Hopefully, if you're a faithful listener, then you know this is your live legal call and talk show that we do every Tuesday at 5. It's hosted by us, the law firm at Parent Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes. As we mentioned before, we are live right now on Facebook and YouTube. Feel free to leave a comment for us or a question in the chat. We'll be sure to answer that for you live over the air. We did have one comment saying, "I like the new banner." That is our radio show banner. Thanks. That was designed by my partner, Matthew Noyes.
Nice. Very nice.
And of course, we will also be posting this show and also other shows on our podcast. So after today, we'll be on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, and pretty much anywhere you can consume a podcast. You'll be able to find it on FLA Law live on the radio. Follow us, you'll get the notifications, and you'll be able to see when this show goes up with Charis Campbell. So with that being said, let's jump back into it. Our family law discussion with our family law extraordinaire, Ms. Charis Campbell, and she's been talking about divorce so far, but there's so many different facets to, what goes into family law cases. And so I want to talk a little bit about I think you mentioned a little bit about just kind of how property is distributed in the state of Florida. I believe it's equitable distribution, right?
Yes.
So you did touch on it a little bit, and yet there's a presumption that it should be equal or half and half, but that's not always the case, right?
Right.
So let's talk about that then and discuss for our listener, how is property truly divided in a divorce?
Okay. So basically, according to the statute, property is divided. First you have to figure out which property is marital and non-marital.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so to determine whether the property is marital, we look at the date of marriage.
Okay.
Until the date of filing of the divorce. Now, if parties have been separated for an extensive amount of time, then there are times where we would ask the court to go from date of marriage to the date of separation.
Okay, that makes sense.
But essentially everything, all of the property, assets, and debts that have been accumulated during that period of time is considered marital. Mm-hmm. Same for property that has been obtained before the date of marriage, but grew during the marriage.
You anticipated my question.
Yes. And not by market forces, right? Not, so for instance, if I had a 401k before marriage, but I didn't, during the marriage, I did not contribute any monies to the 401k, but the 401k grew. Yeah. Well, that's market forces. That's different. If I contributed marital income, marital money into that 401k, then there would be a marital component of that asset.
Okay.
And so once you've determined what the marital assets and debts are, you determine what the value of that is. And that's where it can be tricky. And that's what makes family law interesting, because you can be dealing with real estate, where if you don't agree to value, then you have to get an appraiser. Or if you're dealing with a business, if you can't agree to the value of the business, then you have to obtain a business valuation. And so depending on what the asset or the debt is, you put a value on it. And the goal is for both spouses to leave the marriage on equal footing. So we put that in a balance sheet.
Yeah.
And start to, divide up the property, of course, taking into consideration tax consequences. We try to get the true
consequences should be equal as well, right?
Right. The consequence, exactly. And it has to be factored in. After we tax affect it or apply penalties, what is the value of this asset?
Yeah. Now, is it something that can be agreed upon that, let's say it is clearly under the statute, this is a marital asset? However, can the parties agree to treat it like it's not? For example, let's say someone has a business and the business was started during the marriage. There was marital income that went into the business, but the other spouse says, you know what, I didn't do a thing. That was you. That was your business. I'm willing to walk away from whatever that is. even though it's technically a marital asset, is that something that parties can agree upon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Parties can agree to whatever they want to agree to when it comes to equitable distribution. But just keeping in mind if there's exposure for alimony, right? Because the way that we deal with these cases, one thing affects the other. So
that makes sense.
Look at these cases in accordance with the PEACE acronym.
Okay. What does that mean?
P stands for parenting plan. E stands for equitable distribution. A stands for alimony. C stands for child support. And then the final E stands for everything else.
Okay.
And so the equitable,
the catch-all.
That's the catch-all.
Yeah.
And so with E, equitable distribution, depending on the distribution of the assets and debts, that can then affect an alimony award. So for instance, if I say, Jackie, you're my spouse, and you keep the business and or you keep an investment account, and this investment account's, profit, you would get like a profit or distribution of like $500 a month, that factors into your income.
Yeah.
And then when we're looking at alimony,
you look back at that.
Right. And that gets factored into your income for alimony purposes and your need, right?
Right.
And your ability to pay your bills. So all of these things. So there are times where we strategically offer certain assets to reduce the exposure to alimony. Like I had a case where the property was completely paid off. And so no mortgage. And it made sense in that case, I represented the husband, for the wife to keep it because that reduces his alimony exposure, because now we're not talking about a mortgage payment, right? Insurance, all that stuff. So that reduces the wife's need by like $2,500 a month compared to if that property was sold or if he kept the property and she would have to rent. And so these are strategic things that you can do. And then because there's a presumption that both parties leave the marriage on equal footing, well, there was an unequal distribution. So that also affects, the other aspects of the case.
Well, that's interesting that you mentioned that, because I don't know if our listeners are familiar, but I was listening to I don't know what you would call it, pop culture, just current, with the rapper Cardi B. And now she's getting divorced from her husband. And I guess initially he was not asking for any alimony. And then he came back and it turned into a big topic because everybody's like, oh my God, he's asking her for spousal support when he himself is famous and presumably has a lot of money. And I think the reason that he had said that he was doing that was because she was asking for so many of the other assets, their homes. And I guess they have a home in New Jersey and Atlanta. And I think his response was, well, since you're asking for all these things, now I'm asking for spousal support. So do you kind of see that as an equitable reason for doing that? Like, if you want all of this, then I need spousal support in exchange.
Yeah. So, spouses have, in each case, there's strengths and weaknesses and there's exposure, right?
Right.
I would say equitable distribution is, the presumption's equal. And so that's really what it is. Now, but when it comes to alimony, that's a different story, right? It's need and ability to pay. And so, from our standpoint, these are two wealthy individuals. Should not be a need, but it really depends on their standard of living. Now, standard of living is not a super factor, but it's still something that's taken into consideration. Because where, one couple, they live off of their standard of living is maybe $7,000 a month, right? And what I mean by that is like their budget. Cardi B and they may be living off of $100,000 a month. I don't know. If depending on their standard of living, what they become accustomed to, length of marriage, all of those type of things, it does come into play. And so Cardi may have some exposure there, depending on how much more she earns compared to him. And then the question is, if I was representing Cardi, is he earning to the capacity that he should be earning?
Okay.
Right. And so
And explain why that matters.
So it does.
Is he like intentionally limiting his income so that he can ask her for support?
Right.
I gotcha,
Is he underemployed? So if Cardi is doing so many appearances, if she's doing so many concerts, going on tour, she's fulfilling. Is he fulfilling his contract? Is he actively trying to get other contracts? Is he working to the same extent that she is?
Yes.
Do they have the same
Makes sense.
earning? Because I would do a vocational evaluation on him to see to what extent is he, earning.
Yeah.
And then two, the assets that he does have, is he investing into them, using those investments to the level that they should be, right? So if they have properties, are they being rented when they're not there? Because you're not, if you have 10 rental properties, and they're not being...
If they're vacant, what good is it?
Right. Then you can't also... If you have the potential to earn income on them, you can't then turn around and say, yeah, I'm going to let them sit, but I also still need money.
Yeah,
no,
that makes sense.
And so I think a rental value should be attributed to that.
Right.
And income imputed.
Whew. Obviously, things get on a much higher level when you have much higher income and higher value clients. That's for sure. So that'll be interesting to see. At one point, I know that her husband in the past was represented by one of our law school classmates. I don't know if she still is, but
yes.
So that'll be interesting to see. But this is a good segue to child support. And the reason why I say that is because I wanted to know if that factors in at all when it comes to equitable distribution and whether or not there's spousal support. Does child support matter in that whole grand scheme of things? And the reason why I'm asking it that way, because I've always understood child support to be for the child, and that it's not really the spouse's income or property. So does child support really factor in? And if it does, how so?
So it does factor in. So the way that child support is calculated under Florida statutes, you take into consideration, it's like a statutory formula. So it takes into consideration the parents' net income, both of their net incomes, allowable deductions, of course, childcare expenses, daycare, essentially, health insurance, and the amount of overnights that both parents are exercising with the child. And so so the way that alimony affects that is that if I, for instance, were married and I'm ordered to pay you $1,000 a month in alimony, that $1,000 is deducted from my gross income. Okay. And then it's added to your income.
I gotcha.
And so after
then when you're doing the child support evaluation,
right,
that's how it factors in.
That's how it factors in. And so when the alimony stops, then of course child support is then adjusted to reflect, whatever income is happening at that time.
Makes sense. Okay. So then what is something, I feel like child support would probably be a big or frequently, asked topic when it comes to family law. So what is it something that you would say with child support that it's a common misconception or that people would just be surprised to know when they're coming to you with their child support issue that you frequently have to explain, like, nope, that's not how it works. This is what it is.
Yeah. So there's a couple. The first thing is, I'll get parents who say, and especially with paternity issues, we get along so well. I don't understand why dad put me on child support or why mom put me on child support. Well, if a parent is getting government assistance and they want that government assistance, they have to. They're not left with a choice.
Interesting.
So once they...
And what do you mean by which kinds of government assistance?
So that can be cash assistance. That can be Section 8 housing, food stamps, any kind of assistance like that. The Department of Revenue would require for the other parent to be put on child support.
Or at least make the attempt. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. Another misconception is that if we exercise 50-50 time sharing, then I won't have to pay child support. And that's not how it works. Like I said, the biggest factor are the incomes. So if you make, you know, if you're similarly situated income wise, then yes, if there's like, I make 40 and you make 50 or 40, 45, then yes. And we're exercising equal time sharing and assuming there's not a lot of other expenses that's factored in, then that could result in a very minimal child support obligation. But, that's not always the case.
Right.
You can still have parents that exercise 50-50 time sharing, and depending on the disparity or the difference in your income, still be ordered to pay child support.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to back child support, okay, if there is a 2-year look back retroactive period. Now, if you live together during that period, typically child support isn't going to be ordered during that 2-year period that you live together. But if you did not, child support can be ordered
retroactively.
And that can be waived if, mom or dad agrees to. But like you mentioned, ongoing child support cannot be waived. In fact, the judges do not have the power to decline to order ongoing child support.
Really?
It is the right of the child. And so
even if I said, all right, I won't ask you for alimony if you don't ask me for child support, that is not something that you can do.
It is no, you can't. And I would say this, you cannot use
it's not
the
really
word.
It's for the child. Like you said, you can't negotiate away the child's rights.
Exactly. You can't. It's the right of the child. You can't negotiate it out. And really using the word waiver is the problem. Now, there are ways that you can, right? There's some terminology, and that's why
we pay her the big bucks,
right? In those cases, you definitely need to consult with an attorney who can draft that language in a way that would be acceptable to the court and consistent with the statutes, right? Because there's reasons why you may deviate.
Sure.
For instance, if the alimony and the child support award is similar, right? Or if there's an offset with that, then it wouldn't make sense for us to pass the same money back and forth. Yeah. But again, it has to be carefully crafted to make sure that we're in compliance with the laws of our land.
Yeah, for sure. So then when you're talking about child support, obviously I understand that time sharing plays a role in deciding, how that's paid and how much is paid. But there was a conception, I feel like a misconception, but obviously you can clarify that dads are just not always on the same playing fields when it comes to deciding the time sharing, and that moms have a greater chance of getting more custody. Is that true, or is there any truth to that, or is it pretty much, dads have the same equal playing field as moms?
Yeah, I would say that, that's not as true anymore. I've seen such an incredible shift in dad's rights, especially here in Pinellas County. As you may or may not be aware, our statutes have changed as of July of 2023, in which there is a presumption of 50-50. Now, you have different judges that will interpret that differently, right? You have certain judges, and this is all across the board, across the state. You have certain judges that believe that that are going to tell you, I am going to order 50-50 unless there is a reason not to. And it's up to mom or dad, mom and mom, dad, whomever. It's up to the parents to move the needle. You need to convince me as to why I should not order 50-50.
Yeah.
Then you have another set of judges who say, no, 50-50 is just the starting point. And the standard is the preponderance of the evidence. So it's not, that high of a burden.
Right.
But I've definitely seen the shift, even with babies. When I was when I first started practicing 10 years ago, there was the tender child doctrine, all this. The child's breastfeeding, we can't start equal time sharing. We can't start substantial time sharing right away. That has completely shifted. It's not as much of a thing anymore. And so, I would say the things that are taken into consideration in regards to equal time sharing is how close do you live together? Like the practicality of it, right?
If
Like
they're clear across the country, then obviously that's going to be difficult. Yeah.
Right. Like how close, how far do you live from the school? What are your work hours? What is, who do you need to depend on third parties for care? Are you able to provide the care? How involved are you with school and with extracurricular activities? So really, you see the judges taking more of a practical approach and looking at both parents on a more even playing field.
Is there anything that stands out to you, obviously, besides the 50-50 rule that's now obviously been the part of the statute now in 2023? But is there anything else that you feel like is the biggest factor that judges look at when they're trying to figure out or basically what would influence their decisions the most when they're trying to figure out the time sharing?
So I think that proximity and like distance, as well as like the co-parenting relationship, because it does require a lot of communication. And so there is, and like you said, there's certain expectation of certain levels of drama. If you were getting along, you probably would not be in a adversarial position in court.
Right.
And so if you find yourself in court, there's some expected conflict. But, how do you problem solve? How are you able to work through it? And so you'll see certain cases where it's more on the extreme realm where parents are making unilateral decisions, that sort of thing, where the court may rule that 50-50 isn't going, especially when it starts to affect the best interest of the child. Like when parents are making decisions that are their own, serving their own desires versus putting the children first.
Right.
And so that's what I challenge my clients to do, and myself as a mother. Is this in the best interest of the child, regardless of how I personally feel? Yeah.
Well, I think that's been amazing advice. And before we wind down and get ready to close out the show, I want everyone to have your info so they can find you online or social media or however you prefer to be contacted. Go ahead and let our listeners know.
Yes. So you can contact us. We do have a Facebook page, our website. Our website is goldenkeylawgroup.com or a shorter version, gklglaw.com. Our phone number is 727-317-4738. Feel free to contact us. We're here, ready and available to, answer any questions that you may have. And like I said, it's good to at least get a consultation and know your rights, even if you don't hire us. But we'd love to have you. We'd love to represent you. And what's good about our firm is that we come up with a strategic plan for our clients. No, we don't treat, the cases the same. So if you tell me, look,
not all cookie cutter.
Right. If you want it to be, let's try to, we want to work out an agreement as much as possible. We don't want it to be an adversarial process. I'll try to do that. If you tell me, look, this is going to have to go to court, we're going to have to duke it out, I've tried to work it out, then we'll take that route, And so we try to really give specialized service.
Absolutely. And I know that's exactly what you'll get if you end up hiring her. And so I am so happy that you were able to tune in tonight. Hopefully you all got some great information from Charis Campbell. I'm sure we'll have her back again at some point on the show. That is it for tonight, folks. It's been FLA Law live on the radio, and we will see you next Tuesday at 5 p.m.
Thank you for having me.